At 1:23:45 a.m. on April 26, 1986, the world witnessed the most devastating nuclear disaster in history. Reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant exploded. The blast ripped the roof off the reactor building, spewing radioactive material into the atmosphere. A routine safety test went horribly wrong, setting in motion a chain of catastrophic events. The reactor core became dangerously unstable. A power surge led to a steam explosion that blew the reactor apart. The explosion scattered debris and radioactive material over a wide area. Plant workers exposed to lethal radiation struggled to comprehend the disaster. Emergency services rushed to the scene, ill-equipped to deal with the invisible enemy. The Chernobyl disaster serves as a stark reminder of the immense power of nuclear energy and its devastating consequences. The Chernobyl disaster was the result of a complex interplay of design flaws in the RBMK-1000 reactor and critical human errors. The RBMK-1000, a Soviet-designed reactor type, lacked several key safety features common in Western reactors. Notably, it lacked a containment structure, a crucial barrier designed to contain the release of radioactive material in the event of an accident. This flaw, known as a positive void coefficient, meant that a decrease in reactor power could lead to a surge in reactivity, potentially causing a runaway chain reaction. Compounding these design flaws was a series of human errors and violations of safety protocols. Operators, under pressure to complete the test, bypassed several safety systems and disregarded warnings from the reactor's control panel. These actions, combined with a lack of communication and a culture of secrecy within the Soviet nuclear industry, created a perfect storm for disaster. The Chernobyl disaster highlights the importance of robust safety culture in the nuclear industry. The lessons learned from Chernobyl continue to shape the design, operation, and regulation of nuclear power plants worldwide. The path to the Chernobyl disaster was paved with a series of fateful decisions, each seemingly insignificant on its own, but together forming a deadly chain of events. The decision to conduct the safety test intended to simulate a power outage was made despite the reactor being in a potentially unstable condition. The procedure called for a gradual reduction in reactor power. However, due to a combination of operator error and design flaws, the power output dropped far lower than intended. This drop in power, coupled with the RBMK-1000's positive void coefficient, led to an uncontrolled surge in reactivity. As the reactor spiraled out of control, operators made a series of desperate attempts to regain control, but it was too late. The resulting steam explosion ripped through the reactor building, releasing a plume of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The disaster exposed the dangers of prioritizing production over safety, highlighting the need for independent oversight and a commitment to transparency in all matters related to nuclear power. The explosion at Chernobyl was not just a momentary catastrophe. Its impact would stretch across decades, leaving an indelible mark on the environment, human health, and the global nuclear industry. The immediate blast and subsequent fire released a radioactive plume that spread across Europe, contaminating vast areas with radioactive isotopes like iodine, 131, cesium-137, and strontium-90. These radioactive isotopes posed significant health risks, particularly iodine, 131, which can accumulate in the thyroid gland, increasing the risk of thyroid cancer, especially in children. The long-term effects of radiation exposure, including an increased incidence of leukemia and other cancers, continue to be studied and debated. Beyond the immediate health impacts, the Chernobyl disaster had profound psychological and social consequences. The disaster forced the world to confront the potential risks associated with nuclear energy and the importance of robust safety measures. In the immediate aftermath of the Chernobyl explosion, confusion and disbelief reigned. The Soviet authorities, initially reluctant to acknowledge the scale of the disaster, delayed the evacuation of Pripyat, the city closest to the power plant. It wasn't until 36 hours after the explosion that the order to evacuate was finally given. Residents, told to pack only essential belongings, were assured they would return within a few days. Little did they know they would never set foot in their homes again. Firefighters, miners, and soldiers, later known as liquidators, were sent in to battle the invisible enemy, often with little or no protective gear. The disaster served as a wake-up call, highlighting the need for transparency and international cooperation in the face of such events. The effort to contain the Chernobyl disaster and mitigate its consequences fell upon the shoulders of hundreds of thousands of people. Known as liquidators, these brave individuals, often volunteers, faced unimaginable conditions as they worked tirelessly to extinguish fires, entomb the destroyed reactor, and decontaminate the surrounding area. Firefighters, the first responders to the scene, faced the brunt of the initial radiation exposure. Many received lethal doses of radiation while battling the blaze that raged in the reactor core. Miners dug tunnels beneath the reactor to install a cooling system, working in grueling conditions, exposed to high levels of radiation. The liquidators, many of whom received high doses of radiation, faced long-term health consequences, including an increased risk of cancer and other radiation-related illnesses. Their sacrifices serve as a reminder of the human cost of nuclear accidents and the importance of honoring their legacy by striving for a safer nuclear future. 37 years after the disaster, the Chernobyl exclusion zone, a 2,600 square kilometer area surrounding the power plant, remains largely uninhabited. The city of Pripyat stands frozen in time, a haunting reminder of the day life came to a standstill. Despite the high levels of radiation, the exclusion zone has become an unexpected haven for wildlife. The absence of human activity has allowed various species to thrive, including wolves, lynx, and even endangered Przewalski's horses. While the exclusion zone remains largely off-limits to permanent residents, it has become a destination for tourists and scientists alike. Tourists, drawn by the eerie beauty and historical significance of the site, can visit Pripyat and other abandoned settlements accompanied by licensed guides. Scientists conduct research on the long-term effects of radiation on the environment and wildlife, gathering valuable data on the ecological recovery of the area. The Chernobyl exclusion zone stands as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of nuclear disaster. The Chernobyl disaster had a profound and lasting impact on the world, fundamentally changing the way we think about nuclear power and the importance of safety. The disaster exposed the flaws in the Soviet approach to nuclear energy, characterized by a culture of secrecy, a lack of transparency, and a disregard for safety protocols. In the wake of Chernobyl, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, strengthened international safety standards, emphasizing the importance of independent regulation, operator training, and emergency preparedness. The disaster also led to a decline in public support for nuclear power in many parts of the world, delaying or halting the construction of new nuclear plants. The lessons learned from Chernobyl have led to significant improvements in reactor design and safety culture, making modern nuclear power plants significantly safer than their predecessors. As we navigate the challenges of a changing climate, the lessons learned from Chernobyl remain as relevant as ever, guiding our efforts to harness the power of the atom safely and sustainably.